Back once again at the University of Toledo Medical Center with Dr. Kris Brickman, and we're talking about elderly people, especially when it's going to start getting hot here. It's already starting to, as it is. Are there particular things that maybe some of us can watch out for when it comes to elderly people or family members or friends that we want to know about that we should watch for that might be happening in them to prevent anything drastic from happening?
Well, when you talk about older people, older population, your parents or grandparents, as the case may be, they particularly are vulnerable to getting dehydrated quickly in the sun. Some of the people, if they aren't as clear mentally as they were when they were younger, they're not going to be telling you they're having issues or problems. So you do have to keep a closer eye on it. You're not going to see them burn, but just like your little kids, you need to keep coating them with the sunblock and trying to keep that sun at a minimum exposure. And obviously, if they're outside, make sure they keep drinking all the time.
Mm-hmm. I guess that it's got to be really difficult sometimes to communicate with people, and they may not want to admit they're as dehydrated as they are, but if we're watching them or we're spending time with them, we really need to be saying it over and over again and really asking them. Then that's got to be difficult for some people to do.
Well, the biggest issue, you bring up the point. I mean, older people can be stubborn. I try to think of my dad. You know, my dad isn't going to listen to me. I'm his kid. You know, so it's the same kind of thing. Trying to tell your dad and your parents, and it's like, geez, don't cater to us. But they can get very sick very quickly. So it is imperative. You know, you're going to have to be as diplomatic as possible. Just keep handing the beverages over to dad, and you know, hopefully it's not alcohol. You know, so just keep the fluids going. I wouldn't get into the debate because you're absolutely right. Some of the older people can get a little feisty and don't tell me what to do, but when they're in the sun, you don't want to be dealing with the problems when they start getting sick and dehydrated.
Is there a particular level of SPF that they want to have differently that maybe a younger person, a more active person might want to have, or is it pretty much straight across the board? Well,
again, it sort of depends on their complexion for one, and obviously some of them get burnt quicker than others, and some of them, as you know, let's face it, some of the older people, they're not working inside in jobs all the time. Some of them are actually pretty tan and they're a little more resistant to that problem. But any way you look at it, if they haven't been in the sun for a while, I would pretty much be sticking with a 25 to 30 or more to keep that sun, you know, under control. If they're sweating, if they get wet, just make sure you reapply it, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got to be a key is reapplying, and we talked about it with kids and with older individuals. It's the same thing. So time frame wise, you think 25 to 30 minutes is probably a good time range, but always you want to judge the situation too.
Yeah, evaluate the situation. I mean, let's face it, if it's your mom and she's used to sitting out in the sun all the time and hanging out at the beach and doesn't have a problem, you know, she's probably all right. Just make sure she keeps drinking. I've had a problem with my own parents, you know, where they've been sitting out too long. Next thing you know, they try to stand up. They can't stand up, you know, and then you got a problem on your hands, because then what are you going to do, you know? So you really do need to kind of help them stay on top of things, because they're commonly not thinking about it. But 20-25 minutes, somebody better be checking on things.
Okay, Dr. Brickman, good advice. We appreciate it. Take the diplomatic approach. That's the advice today from the University of Toledo Medical Center, and that's your talk back.